Josie and the Pussycats, 46. The panels look different because they had to find this in Laugh Digest 3 instead. Josie and her friend get impressed by the mountain hideaway of Alex's father, and it's surprisingly heartwarming that Alexandra calls them her friends and says she thinks they're something special. But Alex saying, "oh brother," gives away that she might just be buttering them up. She gets offended when he says this though, and never admits it. When it's not like her to try to hide something evil from him instead of them working together on it. So who knows, maybe buttering them up was just an unconscious thing on her part. He should know better than to tell her not to use witchcraft on him, because it's just gonna give her the idea. She makes snowfall on him twice and he smartly surrenders. And at least she suggests going ice skating. It's so nice of Alan to admit that Alexandra's a great skater when he usually hates her. When Josie's about to fall, Alan holds her and says he'll show her how it's done. Well, maybe they all would have gone ice skating whether Alexandra suggested it or not. That might have been the whole reason they came here. She assumes Josie's faking being a bad skater because she's cynical, and says two can play that game. Only to not do what she did, which makes sense because she already revealed that she's a good skater, although it makes her use of the phrase look stupid then. Instead, she stupidly makes herself look bad by using magic to summon snow to spray her from the frozen pond with her skate. I say magic because that's impossible. Again, she at least says she's sorry. Alan goes up to Josie to try to keep her from falling, and Alexandra uses magic wanting the ice to crack. But somehow the ice cracks below her, and she blames her phrasing when the magic should have seen what she was imagining. She's lucky she didn't completely fall in and need saving. Instead, she reacted fast enough to save herself by grabbing onto the ice. It's so nice of Valerie to wonder how Alex could laugh at his own sister. Alan goes up to Alexandra to save her, and Josie gives away that he's gonna have some trouble by warning him to be careful. So even though he could have easily not had that problem, he somehow slips and grabs her head. He should have known she could get out of the water herself. He just really felt like helping. Josie goes over to them with a convenient ladder and makes sure she gets rescued. And there's some ice below her all of a sudden, which would only make sense if she summoned it by accident from focusing on how cold she is. Josie gets called a hero and given a kiss for a reward. And Alexandra has a funny, snarky response, which only gets him encouraged to kiss her again. So she uses magic to put his pants on fire. If she used magic to warm herself up, it'd give away that she's a witch. And if she made them forget she fell in the ice, they would be really confused about why they're here instead of skating. So it makes sense that she didn't do that. Alan runs instead of remembering to stop, drop, and roll. She chases Alan with a blanket to get a reward from him, but slips on the ice as he gets his fire extinguished by the water. So she falls back in the water. The next panel has her perfectly fine after a time skip that wasn't enough to make a day go by. If it doesn't make sense, well, she could use witchcraft to speed up her warming process. Josie expresses gratitude to Alexandra, reminding us that they got to enjoy all of this place because of her. Alexandra pathetically wastes time trying to get the name of their group ruined, when she should know this wouldn't work. So a bunch of panels are wasted until she uses magic to send Alex skiing down a hill and into the snow. Then they start skiing, and Alan gets impressed by how well Josie can ski, which causes Alexandra to summon a tree, only for her to smack into it. It cuts ahead in time to her being realistically injured, and Josie lampshades the tree showing up. Surprisingly, she's not hurt in the next panel, so she really did have the common sense to use magic to heal and erase their memories of her getting hurt. Too bad we didn't see that to explain this. Alex says he got the band a booking in a neighboring resort. Josie compliments him. Alexandra goes with him in the car and lampshades that their band name is silly too. Josie makes the argument that with her band name, no one gets top billing. But isn't their band named Josie and the Pussycats? If not, and they change it later, then she's not going to keep this up anyways. She's going to be no better than her in this top billing thing. Alexandra wants to get back at them for the name thing that she's still on. So when the girls start performing, she uses a spell about conjuring up something that doesn't like cats. Somehow a mouse shows up and scares her into running away, when she wouldn't have imagined the mouse at all. If she's surprised by this, it wasn't what she was thinking about. She would have thought about dogs instead. So the only excuse for her spell failing is the one that it's weak 400-year-old magic. I prefer a better excuse for her plan to fail. The only reason why a witch is even scared of a mouse is that she hasn't had magic for her entire life, and so she's still in the habit of screaming every time she sees a mouse, from back when she thought she was just mortal. But still, if it weren't for inconveniently forgetting she's a witch, this could have turned out better for her. Easily. This time when she says the spell out loud, someone hears it, but somehow only reacts to the word rat. This isn't good because we're supposed to think no one can hear her spells. Something weird happens, and she says she didn't mean her, but the other rat. Who's the dingling she's talking about? It'd have to be Sebastian's magic in her having a mind of its own that she's talking to, because it's not like her to insult herself. It's kind of weird that she would talk to her magic as if it's a separate person. The audience gets impressed and calls it a magic act, and she was so embarrassed that she turns down the opportunity to do that twice a night. After all, she's already rich, doesn't have any ideas for how to use magic in a non-embarrassing way after she just embarrassed herself with it. And even if she tried to be cool with magic instead, she isn't always good enough at it to use it without embarrassment. And she's supposed to keep magic a secret. Even if she wasn't told to keep it secret, mortals must not believe in it for a reason. So it's obvious that she shouldn't tempt fate and risk losing it when she's lucky to have it. This would be the perfect opportunity for her to meet Della. Her being embarrassed right now is the main reason why an arrogant show-off like her doesn't agree to a contract as a magician for fame and fortune, which she could have wanted to do right away actually. But she must have been so focused on wanting to use it to improve her life as she's used to, and the fact that she could keep it a secret, that she didn't think of exposing magic. The story ends with her being told that she made their performance a smash hit, even though it looked like she upstaged them before they'd get a chance to finish their song. Good thing they're so nice. Especially because they would have had their performance be a smash hit whether she used magic or not. But still, the audience being entertained by her magic obviously required her having it. So we're finally at the point where her having magic was worth it, all along. This issue by Dick Malmgren is about Alexandra inviting Josie and her friends to a ski resort, being responsible for anything good that happens to them there. Like getting a financially successful performance that Alex got to arrange for them. Still, she spends the whole time being petty, getting jealous of Alan and Josie and offended that they aren't naming the band after her, so she wastes her time using magic against them. Luckily, it just backfires and bothers her. But I just have to assume the reason she broke the ice beneath her and summoned a rat instead of a dog is that 400-year-old weakened magic excuse that never applies to the Triforce or anything. Because otherwise, how did she screw this up when magic would always know what she was imagining to work? It made sense that she crashed into the tree, I guess. Alan's pants weren't on fire for very long, and she just got herself to fall into the cold water a second time. And later on she got injured. And then she embarrassed herself and impressed an audience with magic, when they could have easily just freaked out at her. So it was a story where you're constantly relieved that the bad guy got karma and the good guys win in the end. Josie and the Pussycats, 47. Alexandra gets jealous of Josie reminding Alan of the school dance and casts a spell to make him ask her to the dance instead. It takes a while for him to ask her out. You'd think he'd do it in one panel. So she wouldn't be saying yes twice in anticipation. Instead, Alan runs up to her looking harder to recognize and snaps his fingers just because he saw her. It's not very believable that he'd ever snap his fingers now that he knows they can reverse her spells. And seriously, I preferred how he looked before. With the way he looks now, he looks way too much like Harvin. Alex gets called out. For some reason, Alexandra doesn't cast the spell again when people are distracted by each other. And when Alex flirts with Josie, Alan grabs him and lifts him up like a moose and drops him. Alex reveals that he took karate lessons, and Alexandra casts a love spell, but when Alex pushes Alan over, the beam hits a stranger and somehow affects him, even though she would have been thinking of Alan. So he comes on too strong and chases her up a tree, and only then is she able to reverse the spell. Why can't she reverse spells by snapping her fingers? She could do that while running. Alan's spiteful and laughs about what happened to her. She did get a taste of her own medicine, since she tried a love spell twice. She gets mad enough to cast a spell to make Alan hold up Alex and punch him. I don't know why he's saying he doesn't want to do this and apologizing for it. Why would he retain his awareness? That doesn't benefit her at all. The next story takes too long for Alexandra to be in it. And before that, it's just an overly dragged out story where yet again Alex gets rejected by Josie. The kind of thing that made me completely tired of his crush on her after the first time. Alex gets a delusional idea about why Josie's going with Alan instead, when he should know he's wrong about his conclusion. Alexandra sees him making an inflatable doll from a novelty shop, and he asks her for a dress. It's very nice of her to humor him when she's normally a jerk. She didn't have to help him. Finally, he's wearing the shades again. They may make him look cocky, but at least he's recognizable. He wants to use the doll to make Josie jealous from seeing him ride around town with it, when he should know that it wouldn't work if she never liked him enough to go with him. Alexandra only likes the idea because if he succeeds, Alan's left for her. So she tells Josie that her brother has a new girlfriend. Josie just says she's glad he's got a date. Alexandra notices that this isn't working and gets the bird brain idea to cast a spell to make the dummy come alive, even though he's busy driving the car. And so he's lucky this doesn't make him crash. He panics enough to move his arm, telling her to get away from him instead of appreciating her. That's too bad. So he accidentally punctures the dummy with his ring and makes it fly from the air, hissing out of it. Josie finds out it was a dummy and makes a crack about him. Like with Alan, sometimes she's shockingly nice, and other times she's the opposite, so I'm not sure what to think of her. And her lack of a deep personality doesn't help. He cleverly lies that he was just trying to inject some humor into their lives. In the next story, Alexandra sees Josie and her friends on the way to an audition and asks where they're going angrily. The fact that she's angry should make it obvious to them that she's so jealous that she can't be trusted to clinch the deal for them. She so wastes time trying to get them to change their name to a stupid one. Why doesn't anyone tell her that the name's too long? A whole page is wasted when I didn't need that as an excuse for a petty character to abuse her powers. The girl spent too long for my liking playing music at the audition, and the guy in charge says he wants to hear some new sound. Alexandra casts a spell to keep them from making any noise. Because of bullshit, he hires this music group for not making any sound. This is not how I'd want her magic to give a good result for them, where it doesn't make any sense at all. But nevertheless, her magic did help them out. So this is the second time it's been great that she's a witch. The story ends there when she could have used magic to change this guy's mind. We don't see her do that, so we're left to assume she was too discouraged to bother, for no reason. This issue is by Dick Malmgren. The first story has Alexandra waste time trying to magically force Alan to ask her to the dance, even though she should know it'd be meaningless if it's only because of magic. She fails because her brother somehow thinks it's okay to snap his fingers around her by now. So as a punishment for love spells, she has to suffer even worse than Alan would have. The second story, with an overly long beginning until Alexandra shows up, has Alex waste time trying to get Josie to date him. For all we know, she really was just too busy to date him and he didn't believe her because he's jealous of Alan. Alex has a hopeless plan to try to get Josie jealous with a dummy in his car, which Harvey tries with Sabrina in a later comic I read. Alexandra has the stupid idea to bring the dummy to life when he's driving, when Sabrina had better timing than that, which ends up getting the dummy revealed to Josie from the damage to it when he freaks out and doesn't crash the car. The third story has Alexandra try to ruin Josie's audition with magic by making them unable to make a sound. But somehow, the guy in charge of it appreciates this as a new sound when it isn't a sound at all, and he liked the music they played earlier. This makes the second time she benefited someone with her magic, so it's too bad it's completely forced again. It could have so easily been written properly if she made them play music, just different music than what they would expect. I guess the reason she didn't do that is that it would be too obvious that magic was involved in it.